of other different types of ingredients you just couldn't consume in the midst of the treatment. And part of that, I literally started drinking my coffee black. Prior to that, I would get your Splendas or your sugars or maybe a little bit of milk or whatever the case was in my coffee, and was kind of forced to drink it black for weeks and weeks on end, and took a liking to it. So even post treatment, and throughout my professional life, I've always drank black coffee. And it was funny because, again, you had mentioned coffee is one of your passions. You learn and you meet so many different folks that also just like to drink black coffee for different reasons, right? Varying reasons. But it's absolutely an acquired taste. And so many folks were drinking it in part because they wanted the energy, just keep going throughout the day, but they didn't want all the sugar, didn't want all the calories, or being mindful of what they put into their bodies. And, at Body Armor Sports Drink, again, where I was from 2012.
Michael Fedele, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Jason. Thank you so much for having me on today.
I'm so glad to have you. The cool thing is, man, you cover like some of my favorite topics. We're talking health and wellness. We're talking somewhat nutraceutical, and we're talking coffee. I dig all this, and entrepreneurship. You've got it all, man. So I know this is going to be a great conversation. I really appreciate you making the time, and I am so looking forward to hear how you have created a healthier alternative to ready coffees, stuff that you find in the cooler, which, by the way, you're tackling one of those consumer packaged products that is notoriously unhealthy, but yet people freaking love it. And so I think that you're really onto something here. So with that, let's just settle in. I want to hear this whole story. So first of all, let's start with the health side of this, and the reason why I'm starting with the health side of it is because I know that your background, which we'll definitely get into, has a lot to do with branding at some of the major beverage companies in the country. You've held the highest positions in that space, but it was really kind of your health journey that brought you to where you are right now with what you're doing, if I'm not mistaken. So is that as good a place to start as any?
Yeah, absolutely. We can dive right in there. And again, Jason, grateful for the opportunity to hop on here with you and talk to you, and, shed some light on kind of what we're doing, what I'm up to, and, how it pertains to some of your, favorite topics and interests here. So super grateful for the opportunity to be here. But yeah, long story short, again, I've worked in beverage for 15 plus years, and started working for the Coca-Cola company back in 2009. I was a brand manager and did marketing for Powerade, and then a senior brand manager and did, brand marketing for Vitamin Water, and then was introduced to the founder of Vitamin Water. This was after Vitamin Water had sold to Coca-Cola. And he had just invested in and co-founded a new startup sports drink brand back in 2012 called Body Armor Sports Drink, which nobody knew of or knew about. And long story short, I joined the team as the director of marketing at the time, and had the opportunity of a lifetime to work with our chairman and the collective senior management team, and a ton of talented marketers, and built Body Armor from, this little startup brand in 2012 up until a brand that we sold to Coca-Cola in 2021. So opportunity of a lifetime. As part of that, I guess when I was back in at Coca-Cola between 2009 and 2012, I was actually again a senior brand manager on Vitamin Water, and I had a health scare myself. And I had thyroid cancer that I was diagnosed with at the time. And as part of the treatment, and I'm healthy now and have been for a long time, knock on wood. But as part of the treatment, had to undergo kind of radioactive iodine treatment, where unfortunately could not consume any products with iodine in it, as well as kind of a long list of other different types of ingredients you just couldn't consume in the midst of the treatment. And part of that, I literally started drinking my coffee black. Prior to that, I would get your Splendas or your sugars, or maybe a little bit of milk or whatever the case was in my coffee, and was kind of forced to drink it black for weeks and weeks on end, and took a liking to it. So even post treatment, and throughout my professional life, I've always drank black coffee. And it was funny because, again, you had mentioned coffee is one of your passions. you learn and you meet so many different folks that also just like to drink black coffee for different reasons, right? Varying reasons. But it's absolutely an acquired taste. And so many folks were drinking it in part because they wanted the energy, just keep going throughout the day, but they didn't want all the sugar, didn't want all the calories. They're being mindful of what they put into their bodies. And, at Body Armor Sports Drink, again, where I was from 2012 to 2021, I had the amazing opportunity to work with tons of different amateur athletes, professional athletes, and just active adults in general. And I was surprised at the amount of folks that were active nonstop throughout the day. And they were going grabbing an artificial energy drink. They were trying to pick and choose the best coffee options for themselves. And I remember I was in the car driving with my kids, and I'm married for 17 years and I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. We were driving up to Vermont from Connecticut. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You hit your 3 o'clock lull and stop at a gas station to maybe grab a coffee. And I look at the ready to drink coffee space in terms of what's in that cooler, cans, bottles, etc. And all that was in there, and we joke about it a little bit, were coffee milkshakes, glass bottles with green labels on them that had, 300 calories and 46 grams of sugar in them. And I'm sitting there like, I just want a jolt of coffee right now. And the guy didn't have a pot of hot coffee that was made that I could purchase for $1 or $2. So, I grabbed one of those bottles, and it's a shame that consumers, are left with no other option and are almost forced to choose, those products with high sugar, high calories as their default ready to drink coffee option just when they wanted a jolt of coffee to get going. So there had to be a better option, I felt. And that's why I created Throne Sport Coffee.
So one of the things I love to do on the show is I love to get some of the details of the entrepreneurial journey, because there's a lot of people out there that are listening to this that they've had a good idea. They've seen a need. They've gone to get something to drink and they found out that there's only the sports drinks and all this other stuff that's just, it's just not good for you. It's got dyes, it's got sugar, all this other crap. And they think to themselves, man, I should make a fill in the blank. But that's kind of where it ends. Now, granted, you did have the background in this, so it's probably more, is more of a reality for you to have this idea and think, yeah, I could really turn this into something. But you go to get the coffee, you find out there's nothing in the cooler that you really want to put in your body. So what do you do from there? And then I want to know, again, from someone who, I can tell you real briefly, I mentioned that I'm the co-founder of a nutraceutical company. Well, I've got a physician partner who's got 30 years of family practice experience that has thousands of cases of blood work that he was able to formulate our stack based on the results of blood tests, right? So that was kind of his benchmark. For you, I know you had the cancer scare, you had the beverage experience, you realized there was nothing in the cooler that you could drink, but how do you go about then deciding, okay, I'm going to go sketch this out and decide I'm going to make a product. You start doing feasibility, and then how you decide what's going to go into it. How do you source the coffee? There's no answer that is too small to this question, because I think some of those little small nuggets for the entrepreneurs out there, as well as those that are interested in health, that stuff can you probably take it for granted now because you've been at it so long, you've done this. Tell us how you come from opening the cooler to try to get something, to get that coffee jolt, to now starting a thriving brand. What happened after that?
Yeah. So post Body Armor, again, I had a host of different opportunities to sort through kind of what I wanted to do next, and grateful to have those opportunities to work with, some amazing people along the way. What I realized is I very much liked building. I like creating. I like culture. I like people. And I wanted to walk away, or go home at night every single night, having had a fulfilling experience at work that day. And part of that for me is the ability to be part of creating something and building something. Now that at Body Armor was as a team member, and this is, slightly different as the founder and CEO, but that for me, in terms of making progress and, contributing to the building of something on a day-to-day basis, was first and foremost. And, I realized that and knew that from a foundational standpoint, that's what I wanted, quote unquote, to do next in some way, shape, or form. It's funny, I saw a quote yesterday to answer kind of your first question, like at what point and how and why do you find the realization or the motivation to do it? I saw a quote yesterday, and hopefully I don't butcher it, but it's something to the effect of, there's never, quote unquote, a right time to, take a risk or to do anything or to initiate there's never the perfect time. People are like, oh, wait for the perfect time to do this. you're never going to find the perfect time. It's more about you have time. And it's about you making the most of that time and taking advantage of it, right? So you're sitting around waiting for the right time to initiate this idea, this concept, this effort that you want to put forth towards X, Y, and Z. That right time may never come. It's you creating the opportunity and willing it to success. And I'd encourage anybody who's got that bright idea or that thought in the back of their mind to move forward with it in some way, shape, or form. Because you'd be surprised at how much you can actually accomplish and move forward with. Once you put forth the effort and wrap your head around it. So I think that's important, just in terms of having that go out and get it type of mentality. Obviously, there's a ton of work involved and a ton of ideation and thought and strategy, prior to any type of launch or, initiating such an effort. But go for it. Like that's my first, my biggest piece is give the opportunity to go for it, and you'll be, surprised at, what you can come up with. And so that's first and foremost for me personally. Once I, felt like I wanted to go for it, and, at least identify for myself what I would find fulfilling on a day-to-day basis. Again, at Body Armor, we created a host of different products for the athlete or the active adult or the active person in general. Right? We had a sports drink, we had a low-calorie light sports drink, we had a sport water that we formulated, we had a protein drink that we never launched, we had a caffeinated version of our sports drink. But again, whenever I was with so many different athletes or active people, one thing that they were drinking nonstop, multiple times a day, was coffee. And oftentimes, coffee with not a lot of junk in it. So for me, there's not a lot of white space in beverage at all. Most things have been done before and have been tried before. And there have been some quote unquote better for you coffee options that folks have tried in the past. Some of them really haven't worked for one reason or another. So I thought there was great opportunity, given the day and age that we're in, to introduce a better for you, ready to drink coffee option. So what I did was a host of different things kind of in parallel. One, begin working on a formula, working with food scientists who, again, I have had past history with and worked on product development efforts with. And again, it gets back, Jason, to what you were saying before. Yes, I do have kind of a beverage background for the last 15 years. So that helped. I worked with a couple of different creative agencies and creative resources, graphic designers, and from a branding and packaging standpoint. And I'll joke that I, quote unquote, helped Frankenstein a package. I took a bunch of different elements from creative designs that we crafted and developed and put them together to, help make this concept. And then also just in terms of how it could come to life. I went away actually with my family for a week or so. And each morning I was on vacation on this summer family trip. I'd pop my laptop open for 90 minutes and start jotting down thoughts and ideas and how this could come to fruition from a sales standpoint, marketing standpoint, a distribution standpoint, flavors, go-to-market strategy. And, I looked up a few weeks later, once I got home, continued to work on it. I looked up and I had a 30-page business plan kind of, developed, and then started, finding some folks that I, felt were very trusted individuals, to me, to use them as sounding boards. Like, hey, what do you think of this? And, got great feedback. So at that point in time said, all right, this thing is absolutely going to be a go. And, made the decision to approach it from that standpoint. But that's really kind of how I thought through the best options to bring this thing to life. And grateful that I did, because, it's great to introduce this product to consumers now. And, not that they've said in these words, where has this been all my life? But it absolutely is filling a void for so many consumers there that, again, want to go out and, get better for you caffeine in some way, shape, or form into their body so they can keep going throughout their day. And it's not just to quote unquote play sports. It's whatever your, as we say, whatever your game is, would provide a better for you coffee alternative for you. It could be picking the kids up from school at 4:00. It could be, going for a 5K run on a Saturday morning or whatever it may be. So it's been fun to introduce the product to folks. We have a long way to go in terms of continuing to drive distribution and introducing the brand to more and more consumers and driving awareness of our product and educating folks as to why we're a better option than some of those other guys that are out there. But again, getting back to kind of the quote unquote fulfilling opportunity that we created here, it's been fun so far and having a blast doing it.
So you made me think of a conversation I just had with another entrepreneur who started a consumer packaged goods brand that will be airing that show probably later this afternoon. And one of the things he talked about was his journey. He was at Goldman Sachs. And so he was, like you, secure, nice job, nice, had all the accoutrements that come with that sort of a firm. And he had to kind of rearrange his life to prepare for his entrepreneurial venture and to bring this product to market. You were kind of in the same boat. You had a good gig. You were doing the right thing. You had all the contacts. It was kind of like you keep your nose clean and just keep doing the work you're doing. You were going to be secure and safe. Again, I'm going to kind of put you in the seat of the mentor right now to this audience of would-be entrepreneurs, because there's a lot of them that listen to the show. What would you tell them to do to prepare? Now, you said you went on vacation. You're spending 90 minutes a day. You're kind of getting ideas. You write the business plan. But once the business plan is written, then you got to execute, which requires some life changes. I mean, what did you look at as far as how are we going to finance the company? Is it going to be kind of friends and family pass the hat? Is it going to be, are you going to do a few rounds? Did you go to VC? Did you go to industry partners that you knew? Kind of how did you make those decisions? But before we even get to that, how did you have to rearrange your life to go, like you said, from the high level staffer to the guy at the top of the company and running the organization? What kind of changes did you make? What kind of conversations did you have with the family, with your wife of 17 years that, hey, I'm about to do this. Is going to be a completely different scenario. What did that look like?
Yeah, without a doubt. So long story short, I mean, and again, getting back to the Body Armor experience for me, I was the head of marketing at Body Armor Sports Drink in 2012. We were just coming off doing $1 million in sales. And when we sold the company to Coca-Cola in 2021, we did 1.1 billion in sales. So as the head of marketing, I had great responsibility, which again, super grateful for, and had 35 people on our marketing team that kind of rolled up and reported into me. So everything from product development to packaging to creative to media to social media to athlete partnerships to retail marketing to field marketing. That strategy and that execution kind of came from that team. So I was, in a high pressure, for lack of a better description, position at that point in time, which for me was a gift, right? One of my favorite quotes that I talk to my team about here is pressure is a privilege, right? Not everybody gets the pressure. So if you do, it's kind of what are you going to do with it, and how do you make the most of it? So I was exposed to that, and that kind of got me going, keeps me going even today. So when I thought through the opportunity to launch a company and run a company, specific to Throne Sport Coffee. Again, I was exposed by our chairman from Body Armor to so many different facets of the business beyond just my marketing element, right? I had a seat at the table for operational conversations, for finance conversations, for sales conversations, for production conversations. And again, whether I was a fly on the wall for those conversations or an active participant, I had the ability to get somewhat of a well-rounded experience from my Body Armor experience that I, can lend itself here to what we're doing with Throne Sport Coffee. So foundationally had a sense directionally, again, it's never the same by any means, of, what it would or could take to try and pull something off with Throne Sport Coffee, which, we've been in market now 11 months, so still a lot more work to do to get anywhere near what something like Body Armor is or was. But, had a decent sense of kind of what was involved as part of it. But then also, again, I do like to work. I like to have fun. But if I'm in charge of my time personally, I like to think that I'm a pretty good time manager. And that goes for time, which, most importantly spent with the family, with kids, with friends and all that good stuff, which is important. Again, you could build a company and sell it and, have all the money in the world, but you have nobody to enjoy it with. What's it all worth? But at the same time, from a work standpoint, how can we take some of the learnings that we have from our previous experiences and, try to operate Throne Sport Coffee in the most efficient manner? It doesn't mean we're not working hard, but we're mindful in terms of what we spend our time on and hours on and energy on. So I'm in charge of my day from the time that I wake up in the morning to the time that I'm done at night. And, I'm trying my best and working hard to be productive at every point in the day until, like anybody, you run out of energy towards the end of the day, and there's only so much you can get done. But I like to be efficient. I like to focus on productivity. And I like to manage my time in a way that allows me to do both, I believe, effectively. And that was most important for me as I opted into this journey. And now, again, having been, having worked on it for more than 2 years, it's been something that, again, I'm pleased with it, my time management and how I've been able to sort that out personally and professionally. And glad that I've done it and continue to do it.
What is your daily routine? How do you manage your day?
Yeah, so I'm up pretty early in the morning, earlier than most, I guess. It's not a 3 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever. Who's Mark Wahlberg wakes up at
Yeah,
1 a.m. and works out for 4 hours and takes a nap and then eats his
right.
six breakfast at 11 a.m. But it's nothing like that. It's somewhat normal. But yeah, up between between 5 and 6:30 every morning. Um, you know, get caffeinated, have a very small breakfast, do a workout in some way, shape, or form. Could be weights, could be cardio, could be just simply stretching if the body's sore, whatever it is. But some type of movement. A bad workout is better than no workout, right? And that could mean even just walking on the treadmill for 45 minutes while you're getting the blood flowing and the body moving, whatever it is. But do that, get ready for the day. Try to get if I'm not traveling for work in some way, shape, or form, get to the office, around 9 or 10 a.m. And, usually have a pretty busy day booked from scheduled meetings to impromptu, team efforts, here in the office. We do have a Sport Coffee headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. So working and collaborating with the team here when I am traveling, obviously it varies based on, what the travel looks like, flights versus cars versus when our meetings are and what we're traveling for. But, try to, keep in the same process and same steps each morning, at least to set myself up personally for success for the day. And a lot of that is based on, I know I can be my best and, thinking in optimal way that can, benefit the business. If I do eat right, get rest, work out in the morning and take care of myself. And a lot of that is just discipline. And again, I'm not the most disciplined person in the world. I will have a scoop of ice cream here or there after dinner. I will have an extra drink with some buddies here or there, but it's all kind of within moderation and being smart about it. But I think discipline from a time management standpoint, getting back to what I was saying earlier, as well as discipline in terms of how you take care of yourself and your body, mentally and physically, I think is crucial when you're trying to execute anything at the highest level. For me and for us, it's obviously launching and building and growing a business. But you hear about the professional athletes, right? And obviously, gotten the opportunity to get to know many of them, kind of personally, and they're very disciplined in terms of kind of what they spend their time on, what they put into their body, the training that they dedicate to their skill and their craft to get better every single day. And I believe that there's huge opportunity for not only just entrepreneurs, but just business professionals in general. You don't have to be an executive to do it. To be more mindful about how you manage yourself and treat yourself on a daily basis. And you'll get better output, whatever that output may be. So I'm a firm believer in that quote unquote crusade in some way, shape, or form, and try to practice it and apply it to my life on a daily basis.
It's one of the things I think so many people do take for granted is the most important business machine any of us have or ever will have is our own body and mind. And I think that there's more entrepreneurs that are focusing on dialing into whether it's the biohacking, whether it's sleep, whether it's really, all these different things that make us perform better. If you're physically better, you're going to think better, you think more clearly, be more productive. uh Jess Trankina, who owns the Generator Athlete Lab in Austin, who I've had on the show, when she opened it up, she expected it to be like former professional athletes or triathletes. She thought that's probably who my client base is going to be. What she found was that the core of her business was high performing entrepreneurs like yourself. That's who goes to see her. She said, Tim Ferriss goes in every once in a while, kind of that mold of high achieving individual that realizes the correlation between maintaining our health and our well-being and how that will translate into productive work and better work. And that's one of the things, man, that's why I love learning about products like yours, is because about 5 years ago, I'd always trained and tried to be healthy. But it was about 5 years ago, I took it up a level. I mean, I really took it up to a level 11 on dialing into health, wellness, mitochondrial health, really at the cellular level, and try to figure these things out simply because I want to be clear-headed, a clear thinker as an entrepreneur. I want to make good decisions, and it is a game changer. And so I'm always kind of, I scratch my head at these people that when they see guys like you and I who get up early, we watch what we eat, even if it's, my deal is eat really well 80% of the time. If you can do that, the other 20%, then you can handle
I
the
think
20%,
that's great.
right? And so I scratch my head at these people that they don't sleep well, they do drink too much, they stay up too late, they eat whenever and whatever, and wonder why they're tired, they're lethargic, and they're not getting the output that they want. So that I think that's some of the best advice you can ever give an entrepreneur. And it's one of the things whenever I've done personal coaching to people, I ask them, how are you sleeping? What are you eating? What are you doing for your health? Are you training? Um, and, and again, a lot of them will be like, why would you ever ask me that? You're supposed to be talking to me about weighted cost of capital and weighted average cost of capital and stuff like this.
Sure.
No, we'll get to that. But first of all, how are you taking care of you? All right. So let's talk about Throne Sport Coffee. I want to know, if I am that consumer, I walk to the cooler and there's some Throne Sport Coffee. Why do I grab it? What's in it? And why did you choose the ingredients that are in Throne Sport Coffee that are in there?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, and just kind of a quick overview, we launched in May of 2024. Right now, we're in north of 5,000 stores nationally. We're chain wide at Casey's General Stores, which is 2,800 convenience stores, kind of in the Midwest. We're also chain wide with 4 flavors at Quick Trip with a Q, which is 1,100 stores in 19 states. And I'm excited to say that we're not unveiling it. It's been said publicly, but we're also going to be launching in Whole Foods this summer. So we're going to be in 4 regions of Whole Foods starting in June, and then nationally at Whole Foods in September, with additional distribution kind of lining itself up. I don't say slowly but surely, but actually fairly quickly this summer. So it's our hope that we land ending calendar year 2025. Close to 10,000 total stores and outlets, which again, for our first full year in market, we're very proud of, doing north ideally of 10 million in retail sales. When somebody walks into a cooler or walks into a gas station and sees a cooler and decides they want a ready to drink coffee, and you can see some of the cans obviously over my shoulder here, and we don't look like your traditional coffee, right? Your traditional coffees are a sea of brown and beige and black and very drab and kind of all clones of each other, right? They're all the same types of coffees with the same flavors and just slightly different brand names and packaging from each other. What we wanted to do is hit folks over the head with the idea that we are indeed a functional coffee, right? And that's where the idea of sport coffee stands for. I didn't play any sports today. I'm not sure if you did, Jason, but the reality is, as adults, we don't play too many sports. Yeah, we play pickleball here and there, golf, tennis. Maybe you play a Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning pickup softball game or a rec league basketball game at the Y, whatever it is. But for us, it's more about fitness and being on the go and being healthy. But the brand name Sport Coffee does connote the idea of, hey, this is a coffee that does something a little bit more for me, that provides a little bit more for me. And I like it because of that, and wanted to move forward with it and trademark it accordingly because of that. So that was important to me from a branding standpoint, where at the point of purchase, to your point, in a cooler, not only does the brand communicate, hey, directionally, I kind of get what this is, let me pick it up and see what it's all about. But then also the packaging itself does indeed stand out in a very boring coffee set, right? And it's about kind of a modern, progressive, flipping the category on its head a little bit. And that's why retailers, at least to date, have been, pretty excited about taking this in, because we are disrupting the category, bringing something different. In terms of what's in the product specifically, it is indeed a coffee. It's made with premium Arabica beans from Central and South America, primarily Colombia. It's got 150 milligrams of natural caffeine. It's made with natural flavors, natural sweeteners. The only sugar in our products right now is natural cane sugar. And on top of that, we've got 100% of your daily B vitamins. Most coffees do not have any vitamins, let alone B vitamins in it. B vitamins help the body turn, food to fuel, to utilize as energy. In addition, we've got electrolytes in the coffee. We did not add a ridiculous amount of electrolytes to it. I will tell you that we are not a quote unquote hydrating coffee. If you are going for a 5-mile run in the desert, please drink a sports drink, traditional sports drink or water to replenish, not a a sport coffee, but we do have electrolytes in the product, and we call those out. And we also have branched chain amino acids in the product. Not at enormous levels, but enough to obviously call out. We've got leucine, isoleucine, and valine in the product as well. So for me, I wanted to move forward with a formulation, our Coffee Plus formulation, which we've coined it. The Coffee Plus formulation is one that the ingredients within it and the benefits that those ingredients provide are fairly well known to the average modern mainstream consumer. There are hosts of different coffees that include a host of different additional ingredients. I've talked through, and who knows what the future may hold, the ability to introduce MCT oils and adaptogens, mushrooms, fiber. There's a host of laundry list of different ingredients that one could consider putting in the coffee. But at the end of the day, if we and the team, myself and the team are working to build a mainstream brand for mainstream America, which is what our objective is in terms of, introducing pro and sport coffee to the masses over time. You can't be too niche and too cute, too smart and too sciencey with your product and your formulation. Not everyone is going to understand, what those ingredients do, and it makes your barrier to educate that much more challenging versus leading with natural ingredients, leading with vitamins, leading with electrolytes, and, for the most part, ingredients that people are very aware of.
So one of the things I want to ask you is, and it may just be just because it's your background, so what but we talked about a little bit offline, how when you're bringing a product to market these days, there are so many different avenues that didn't exist like back in the day. Like I would think back, if you had been a marketing executive at Coca-Cola in 1985, it would be Super Bowl ads, TV, billboards, radio. It would just be the standard mass media channels to get the word out. Now, when you're going to bring a product to market, it can be podcasts, and kind of build up that audience. You can do podcast sponsorship, affiliates. You can do direct to consumer. But you can do all these different things. You have stuck with like in my world, I look at what you're doing and it scares the crap out of me, and it looks very expensive because you're doing a mass supply chain. You're working with huge vendors. You talked about with Whole Foods. You have major sports and endorsements that are coming alongside you. Whenever you decided to, and you're taking, which is kind of, I got to tell you, just from my perspective, it's like, man, that's a bold move to take a somewhat niche idea of a healthy, already brewed coffee and putting that on a mass level to hoping that there's enough people that care enough about what they drink to choose a Throne Sport coffee over that bottled Frappuccino. What made you decide, you know what, I don't care, I'm going all out for huge distribution versus more small direct to consumer, more boutique, more bodega, more health food store? I mean, how do you make that kind of decision? Because to me, it seems to me, Michael, that's a big one, man. That's why you're at the top of the heap and you're leading the company. That's the type of decision you have to make. So what calculus and ideas did you have in your mind that made you decide to go that route?
Yeah. Number one, I believe in the product. I believe in the opportunity. That's the most important thing right there, Jason. I think, again, the product speaks for itself in terms of how it's differentiated. Quote unquote, tasting is believing in the product. And I think that's incredibly important. You have the healthiest product in the world, but if it doesn't taste good at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And we continue to tweak our products nonstop. Again, we've been in market 11 months. I've made tweaks to our product, to our packaging as recent as last week in terms of kind of what we do. It's, getting back to the theme of the podcast, and it's constantly trying to get right and put your best foot forward in any and everything that you do. In terms of going more mass mainstream, we were mindful in terms of our launch and quote unquote how big we went. So yes, Casey's distribution in 2,800 stores is not like you're selling it at the back of your trunk. It absolutely is major distribution, but also we didn't quote unquote go national. We didn't quote unquote, launch it in national retailers at the highest level without feeling / knowing that we had the right product proposition, number one, and taste profile, number two. So now that I think we're at a place where, again, the product itself is quote unquote ready for prime time, I think you can see our our coming out party specifically, in the coming months and years, specific to that additional distribution. Because I think now we're ready, right? We've been trained, using analogies, right? We've been training and getting ready for the big game for quite some time, and I think, we're locked and loaded to take that next step with the brand and introduce it to the masses. But from my standpoint, again, I worked on Powerade, I'd worked on vitamin water, and helped build Body Armor. We want to do big things. We want to take on big responsibility. We want to accomplish special things. And it takes special effort to accomplish those special things in terms of the way you work, the effort you put forth. Otherwise, it's not just going to happen. I tell the team frequently, you don't just put product on shelf and looks cool. Patrick Mahomes is involved. We all worked in beverage before. It's just going to fly off the shelves. No, you have to will it to success and work extremely hard, to make it happen, and, try to lean on a lot of your experience from the past. But that experience alone isn't going to, steer you the right way. There's going to be real time situations and opportunity you're forced to make decisions on, and you make the decisions with conviction. You get as much information as you can to help inform those decisions. You make the decisions, and then you go. Again, to get back to the opportunity to do something like this is a special one. So we want to make sure that we're taking full advantage of it and give it 110%.
How much, let me back up a little bit. So I remember reading years ago, one of Peter Lynch's books, the legendary money manager who managed at the time was the largest mutual fund in the world, the Magellan Fund, very successful. And one of the things that he would do is research for anything he had invested in, one being this certain casual dining restaurant that his daughter told him about, that she and her friends loved, that was the greatest thing in the world. He decided to go try it himself. That casual dining restaurant was Chili's, now a household name. And Peter Lynch invests in Chili's back in the day, because he liked it. He thought it was good. His daughter liked it. The food was good. The service was good. He liked the vibe. And so it was just practical, kind of almost like a visceral gut instinct. It wasn't looking at Chili's, their pro forma, their financials. It was just he liked the product. For the audience, again, of the would-be entrepreneur, how much of what you've done with Throne Sport Coffee is data-driven, based on, because numbers, and you know inside baseball on the beverage industry that most people don't know, so you've got that going for you. How much of it is data-driven and just kind of seeing where the segments line up and knowing where the markets are, versus just kind of that going back to that trip to the gas station, you want a cup of coffee, couldn't find it, you go to the cooler, there's nothing but garbage in there, and decide there is a market for this. I just feel like if we produce the right product, if I build it, they will come. How much of those two combined, which outweighs the other? And man, you might not even be able to answer that. I don't know. I just think it's an important question, because I think like guys like me, a lot of times, like I started out as an entrepreneur, then go to business school. I think business school is great, but one thing I always tell people is business school will start telling you everything that can go wrong as much as how much you have to do to make it go right. So you almost overanalyze and end up having paralysis by analysis.
Yep.
Whereas a real entrepreneur, a lot of times will be like, in fact, more times not, the biggest moonshots are those things that like everybody else is saying, that makes no sense. You're an idiot. You're a radical. What are you doing? And you do it anyway. For you in creating Throne Sport Coffee, how much of it was just like, look, I don't care. This is a good idea. I'm going forward and moving on this idea. Can you even kind of dissect that?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a long story short, Jason. It's absolutely a combination. It's qualitative and it's quantitative, right? So yes, my inclination, hey, there really should be something better for folks to choose from. That spawned the idea and the desire to, go deeper with it. But make no mistake, and again, I have my MBA as well. I went to the University of Connecticut School of Business, and so I value, the quantitative data and the right steps and the right process. Again, I'm a tried and true trained brand manager, right, for the Coca-Cola company, prior to Body Armor, prior to the Throne Sport Coffee. So, going through those steps and process as a gut check is crucial. You have to do that. So, I made sure that, again, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I was thinking through this, all right, what's the ready to drink coffee category look like? All right, it's between $6 and $7 billion in the US. Wow, 60% of the volume is in convenience stores. That's an interesting opportunity. but there's only Starbucks and Monster in convenience stores. Why isn't there anybody else, right? Looking at it from that way. All right, what are the top performing flavors in the category, and how should that steer, what we plan to do here, from a flavor selection standpoint, or what paths we go down, thinking through what are consumers looking for in their coffee. And, I'm purchasing Mintel reports to get as much data as I can to understand that, wow, more than 1 in 3 consumers is looking for functionality beyond caffeine in their coffee product. It's interesting. So it absolutely includes a ton of that. Now, that's not the fun, exciting stuff that I'm here to talk to you about, right? It's not as cool and sexy as the packaging or the Patrick Mahomes or the working out or whatever it may look like. But the reality is you have to have, facts to back up your direction, and you bring that to life. At the same time, having that energy, the qualitative, quote unquote, intangibles for the company in terms of the culture we're building, how we're planning to disrupt ready to drink coffee, what we're looking to do moving forward. That's crucial in terms of the energy to bring it to life. So it's absolutely a combination. I can't sit here and say it's 56% of that and 44% of this or whatever the case may be. But every single day it's looking at weekly sales reports, understanding kind of where we are, where we have distribution gaps, where we have distribution voids, taking a look at the future of the business in terms of what are the the next 5 or 6 retailers we'd love to bring on board strategically, to grow the brand. We've gotten literally phone calls from some of the biggest retailers in the country already, which again, grateful to have that. And the reality is we're not ready for them just yet. Right. We'll go there when the time comes. And, part of that again is leaning on past experience, just in terms of when makes the most sense to partner with those guys. But some folks could look at the raw number of stores that you can get in and what that means to your business. Well, I can go from 0 to X in a matter of 1 year or 2 years. And oh my God, it's going to be on fire. It's going to be wild and crazy. And then, you run into challenges for a host of different reasons, soon after that, because you made that decision early on. So part of it is absolutely quantitative, leveraging data to drive the right insights, help you move the needle on the business. But to your point, it's never paralysis by analysis, which can and will happen. And I've been in rooms in the past where that's happened, where you're looking at every chart, every number, every potential situation, what could go right, but to your point, more than likely what will potentially go wrong. And you're scared to make decisions. So, we're in a mindset where it's, A, collect as much data as possible. B, let's review that data. C, let's make a decision. D, let's go. And that's really kind of how we approach the majority of our decisions here on a day-to-day basis, but also keep in mind from an entrepreneurial standpoint and from a brand standpoint, again, for any entrepreneurs that as a new brand, you don't have all the answers and all the data at your disposal at every single time. So there's absolutely going to be kind of gut instinct, whether it's gut marketing instinct or whatever the case may be, that you have to lean on. But that also is what makes it fun. So yeah, hopefully that helps answer the question.
Yeah, 100%. Now, one of the things that I want to go back to, how did you capitalize it to start out? How did you fund this thing?
Yeah, so I'm personally an investor, but we also went out and raised capital prior to launch as part of it. So we went out and did a raise. We did not, for the majority of investors to date, actually pretty much all of them, they were all folks who either I knew directly, and it was less, friends and family, more so business associates and colleagues who we've had success with in the past, to come in. And it is public information, but Patrick Mahomes is the number 2 shareholder in the company. He's the lead investor, put his money into the brand, more money in than any other investor to launch the brand. And then he's also the face of the brand from a marketing standpoint. But he's the number 2 investor in the company. And on top of Patrick, we've got another, dozen plus professional athletes that are also investors in the brand. So the credibility behind the scenes is awesome. And, it's kind of our own little focus group and sounding board where we want to share new products or new ideas or concepts. But beyond that, it's a host of different kind of individual investors. Didn't go to kind of any one singular fund or anything from that standpoint to finance the company.
That's one of the things I found whenever you're launching a brand like yours. And this may sound so trite and silly, but if it's a fun brand with a good story, the investors seem to be better. I mean, because there's some of those investors you just don't want. I mean, like the VC guys, I always tell people when they ask me, how do you advise me to raise capital on this? Well, and they'll say, should I take on partners? Or I'm like, yeah, well, no, first of all, partners are that's the most expensive and aggravating form of capital there is. And Sure. Then, it can really be an important dynamic that people need to understand. It's like not just about getting the money. It's about making sure you only get what you need and making sure it comes from the right sources. And that's why I like to know that.
Yeah, and Jason, just to add on that, again, my counsel and advice, and again, and we took the approaches, anyone who can or would, try to make them strategic in some way, shape, or form. How can think about beyond them just writing you a check or wiring whatever funds? How can they add value to the business? Like if you do have a question, can you go to them with it, right? Whether it's specific to their discipline, have they had success building brands in the past, right? And I'm grateful again, whether it's former beverage executives that I work side by side with to build Body Armor or other folks from Coca-Cola or other founders from other CPG brands. I joke again, I'm far from the guy who has all the answers. But I'm fortunate that I have a group of advisors, investors, and people that are within my network that I can go to and ask questions if and when need be. And I'm super, super grateful for that. If we have a sales challenge, I joke and again, live in the New York area and, first generation Italian, but, quote unquote, I got a guy for that, right? It's like, whatever it is, kind of sales challenge. Let's ask somebody who's been there before that. Maybe we've worked with how did we approach it when we worked together at X? Got a production or an operations challenge. Let's go to the production operations expert. And really trying to lean on other people and surround ourselves with a great group outside of just, we have some amazing employees and folks that, work with us here on the Throw and Support Coffee team, folks who were, leaders and executives at other beverage companies and really made a difference in building those beverages. And again, grateful that they're here at Throw and Support Coffee. But beyond that, it's really like, we have to figure out the answer within, our ability and capabilities. It's somewhere out there. Who can we talk to get as much information to guide us down the best pathway to make the best answer? And that's the whole will it to success mentality, is the skill of figuring it out sometimes, which is what I think being an entrepreneur kind of is like. No one's going to sit there and give you all the answers. You got to sometimes figure it out, and it's grueling. Sometimes you want to pull your hair out. Sometimes, it's a lot tougher than you expect for it to be. But at the same time, that's the beauty of it. It's the journey of trying to figure it all out. And, hopefully for any entrepreneur and for us as well, you do. And we do, because it's very fulfilling as you then take those learnings and apply it to building whatever brand or product it is that you're doing. So it's part of the fun.
I think you're exactly right, man. I was talking to somebody here recently, and I was talking about Stephen Kotler. He said when he's writing one of his books, the author of The Rise of Superman and Catching Fire, a lot of good books on flow and human performance. And he said one of the things that always happens at some point during the writing process for him is he will find himself face down on the floor, beating his fist, trying to figure out what to write next, or the book's not coming together. It happens every time, but he continues to write his books. And I told this individual I was talking to, I said, with entrepreneurship or any project that you think is really worthwhile, when you come to that moment, you need to tell yourself, it has to be this way. This is worthwhile. There's something big I'm working through. And there's never going to be an unbroken boulevard of green lights on the road to entrepreneurship. Just never. There will always be that time where you beat your fist on the floor, you beat your head against the wall, you ask yourself, why in the hell am I doing this? Is this going to work? And at some point, you just have to remind yourself, it has to be this way. Yep. And I think that's great advice to anybody out there. The analogy, man, I use this all the freaking time. I know this audience is probably sick of hearing it. But I remember one time I thought it would be a really cool idea to have a Harley Davidson Softail. I imagine like James Dean on that thing. It'd be awesome. My buddy, he borrows one from a member of our church. We go up to the church parking lot and he says, hey, you got to come up here. You can ride this and see if you like it. Dude, Michael, within 2 seconds, I had the thing on its side, out of me. And I was like, oh man, I realized right then the idea of having a Harley was far better than the reality. And that's how it is with entrepreneurship sometimes. It's this idea of it is so much better than the reality. But if you can make it and you can thrive on the reality of it, you got a shot at making it, right?
Listen, it's again, somewhat of a cliche, saying type of, if it were easy, anyone would do it. Right. And that's the reality of it. So you have to go into it knowing it's going to be a challenge, right? And you have to go into it for the right reasons. Again, and everyone needs to sort through personally what they quote unquote want to do with themselves professionally, right? Or is it to go out there and create and build something and enjoy what you're doing every single day, and allow it to be fulfilling. That's why I'm doing this. I very much enjoy working with our team. I enjoy the steps and the processes in and around the beverage business. Again, it's wild and crazy for all the reasons that we've discussed, but I enjoy it. Believe it or not. If you're in it because you want to, quote unquote, make zillions of dollars, or you're in it because you just want to, be on the front cover of a magazine, or, whatever the case may be, those are probably the wrong reasons to do it. Right. You got to do things that you enjoy. And I think it gets, really exciting when you have the ability to merge kind of passions with, something professionally, and then it doesn't really feel like work, in certain aspects. So I think that's very smart and right, but you got to do these things from an entrepreneurial standpoint for the right reasons. Only each individual knows what those right reasons may or may not be for themselves. I've got a bunch of, different folks that I talk to and try to give advice to in terms of jobs or whatever the case may be. Not specifically jobs for throwing the sport coffee, but people that are in their 30s or 40s and are looking, trying to figure out what's next for them. Should I, shift gears from my current job or another job or whatever? I'm like, what are you looking to get out of it? Like, do you just want another, a bigger title? Do you want to go from director to vice president? Do you want to make an extra 10, 20, $50,000 a year? Like, do you want to do something that you genuinely enjoy every single day? Do you want to commute from Connecticut into New York City and back and forth? Or like, figure out what's, I don't say wrong about your current situation, but what you're really aspiring to do. And that will help you in terms of identifying what next opportunity is best for you, because it'll check those boxes accordingly versus kind of blindly flying out there. But at the end of the day, if you want to be an entrepreneur and it's, quote unquote, for, I don't say the right reasons, but the right reasons for you, I applaud anybody who's willing to do it. It takes a lot of guts. Anybody who's willing to go out there and stick their neck out and put their name out there and put their brand out there and their heart out there and work their tail off to do something special. I applaud you, whether you're successful in it or not, because it takes a ton of guts to do.
Man, you just nailed it. And one of the things too that you mentioned, so I wrote a book back in 2010 that, maybe 3 people read, that was about, and I talked about basically blueprinting your life. And a lot of it was documenting my escape from corporate America into entrepreneurship. And what you just said was exactly how I started the book. I listed out where I wanted to live, the commute that I didn't want to have anymore, the fact I didn't want to get on airplanes every week like I was doing. It all had to do with the life I wanted to live. And very little of it had to do with making money, having some big windfall, exit strategy. It was all about creating a business that would tie into the life I wanted to live, exactly like you've described it multiple times through this conversation, by the way, Michael, about the things you like to do, the things that drive you, the things that allow you to be the best version of yourself. It all ties in with building Throne Sport Coffee at this point. So I think it's awesome. I can't wait to try it. So I'm going to go grab some. The fact that you're in Quick Trip, that's a great sign, because we being headquartered in Oklahoma, being here in Texas, we got Quick Trips everywhere, and they continue to just expand all over around us. So I'll start looking for you, and then of course whenever you get out there in Whole Foods, I'll check that out, which means I know I can order it on Amazon. I can have the stuff shipped to me. And anything else that we have not covered about Throne Sport Coffee that we need to get this audience to know?
No, Jason, again, number one, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show. Again, grateful. And, you got a great audience that, look forward to, hopefully coming on at some point in the near future and giving you a great update on what we, knock on wood, have accomplished all in due time from a Throne Sport Coffee standpoint. For anybody that's genuinely considering doing something unique and entrepreneurial themselves, I would say go for it and do it for the right reasons. But absolutely go for it. There's never the perfect time. So you got to create that time and create the opportunity and then take full advantage of that opportunity. But now this has been a lot of fun for me. So would love to keep in touch with you and with the audience and everybody else. And again, thank you so much for having me today.
Brother, you're welcome anytime. This is not going to be our last conversation, I assure you. Thanks so much for joining us. He's Michael. I'm Jason. We're out.
The content provided in this podcast, The Healthy CEO, is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. The opinions expressed by our hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Healthy CEO. Any information provided by our hosts or guests, including any physicians who may appear on the podcast, is solely for informational purposes and does not create any doctor-patient relationship. Listeners are advised to consult with their healthcare providers before making any changes to their health routines. The Healthy CEO and its affiliates assume no responsibility or liability for any consequence resulting directly or indirectly from any action or inaction you take based on the information provided in this podcast.